The theater was loud with anticipation, but the moment the boy walked onto the stage, a strange silence slowly swallowed the room. He was small for his age, wearing worn-out shoes and a shirt that looked borrowed rather than owned. His hands trembled slightly as he held the microphone, and for a second, even the judges wondered if he would run away. The spotlight felt too big for someone who looked like he had spent his life trying not to be seen. Then he lifted his eyes, took a deep breath, and everything changed. His name was Miguel, a boy from a small village in the Philippines where dreams were often postponed by hunger and responsibility. He grew up in a tiny house made of thin wood and rusted metal, a place where rain leaked through the roof and nights were filled with the sound of his younger siblings coughing in their sleep. His father had left years ago in search of work and never returned. His mother worked long hours washing clothes for other people, her hands cracked and swollen, yet her smile never faded when she looked at her children. Miguel learned early that life was not fair, but he also learned that music could make it bearable. Every evening, after finishing school and helping his mother, Miguel would sit outside with an old radio that barely worked. Through static and broken signals, he discovered songs from another world. One song stayed with him more than any other: Hotel California. He did not fully understand the words at first, but the melody spoke to him. It sounded like longing, like being trapped and still hoping for freedom. He sang it quietly at night so he would not wake his siblings, dreaming that one day his voice could take him somewhere better. Getting to the audition was not easy. Miguel almost didn't come. He had no money for proper clothes, no confidence, and no belief that someone like him could stand on such a big stage. The night before the audition, his mother found him sitting alone, staring at the floor. She placed her tired hands on his shoulders and told him something he would never forget. She said that even if the world did not listen, she had always heard him, and that was enough to prove his voice mattered. That night, Miguel promised himself he would sing not just for fame, but for his family, for his past, and for the boy he used to be. Back on the stage, the judge asked him why he chose to sing Hotel California. Miguel swallowed hard and answered honestly. He said the song felt like his life, beautiful but painful, hopeful yet heavy. Some people in the audience smiled gently, while others looked away, already emotional. The judges nodded, still unsure of what was coming. Then the music started. The first note left his mouth soft and fragile, almost like a whisper. But it was pure. There was no training, no perfection, just truth. As he sang, his voice grew stronger, carrying years of struggle, nights of hunger, and dreams whispered into the dark. Every word felt lived, not memorized. The audience leaned forward. One judge's smile slowly faded into shock. Another placed a hand over their mouth, eyes glistening. Miguel closed his eyes as he reached the chorus, pouring everything he had into the song. He was no longer on a stage. He was back in his village, singing under the stars, wishing for a miracle. The room felt heavy, like everyone was holding their breath. A judge wiped away a tear, trying to stay composed. Another shook their head in disbelief, whispering that this was impossible. Halfway through the performance, Miguel's voice cracked for just a second. Not from lack of skill, but from emotion. Instead of ruining the moment, it made it real. The audience felt it. This was not just a song, it was a confession. It was a boy telling the world how hard it was to survive and how music saved him when nothing else could. As the final notes echoed through the hall, silence followed. No clapping, no cheering, just silence. Miguel opened his eyes, afraid he had failed. His hands shook again, and he lowered the microphone slowly. Then one judge stood up, tears streaming freely down their face. Another followed, openly crying now. The audience erupted, applause crashing like waves. Miguel froze, overwhelmed by a sound he had never heard before, people cheering for him. The judges tried to speak, but their voices broke. One of them said they had heard many singers but very few souls. Another admitted they were crying not just because of his voice, but because of his story, his courage, and his honesty. Miguel felt tears run down his own face, something he had learned not to do easily. For the first time, he felt seen. Then came the moment no one expected. A judge reached for the golden buzzer. The sound exploded through the theater, golden confetti raining down like a dream. Miguel dropped to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. All the pain, fear, and doubt he had carried for years poured out in that moment. The audience stood, cheering louder than ever. His mother, watching from backstage, collapsed into tears, hands shaking as she thanked God silently. Later, backstage, Miguel struggled to understand what had happened. He kept asking if it was real. The judges hugged him, not as a contestant, but as a child who had survived too much too soon. They told him this was only the beginning, but even if the journey was hard, he was no longer alone. Miguel returned home a different boy, not because he was famous, but because he believed in himself. Life did not change overnight. There were still bills to pay and struggles to face, but there was hope now, and hope is powerful. He continued to sing, not just for success, but to remind others like him that their pain had a voice too. His story spread across the world, touching millions. People saw themselves in him, their own struggles reflected in his song. Miguel became proof that talent does not come from comfort, but often from survival. That dreams do not belong only to the rich or lucky, but to anyone brave enough to hold on to them. And long after the lights faded and the stage emptied, one thing remained clear. A poor boy walked onto a stage with nothing but a broken past and a trembling voice, and he walked off knowing that even the heaviest hearts can be lifted by a song sung from the soul.